Comparison, the thief of joy. Or perhaps the grass is greener on the other side. I'm sure we've all heard these sayings. What do they mean to you? I've had a long time to think about these two concepts. And I'm as guilty as the next person who spent years of their life looking at what other people have and thinking I'd be better off for having it myself. And it's taken me quite some time to get to a spot in life where I no longer compare, where I no longer try to measure myself up to somebody else. I've worked a slew of different jobs in my life, and they never really amounted to much. Never had much savings, not until recent years. I was just working to get by, make sure bills were covered, so I didn't have to revert to moving back into my mother's house. And those jobs taught me a lot about what other people have on paper, what they lack in themselves. When I was 23, I believe, a few months out of college, I got a job working for Direct Buy. Perhaps some of you recall or remember Direct Buy was a membership only wholesale purchasing club. Basically, in a nutshell, and you can do your own research on Direct Buy, but you'd get a call from our call center giving you a heads up for a tour that we were going to put on, basically, and it would be on a specific date. And you and a bunch of other people who decided to indulge our spam calls and come to the tour would all be presented with a spiel on how you would benefit if you became a member. And people with money were usually the ones who took the bait, showed up to the tour. We had our owner of that chapter of Direct Buy in my hometown and a couple other salespeople. They were the ones responsible for roping you in. So what would happen was you'd sit down for a presentation, and they would basically explain to you that by being a member of Direct Buy, you'd be able to save quite a lot of money if you were doing a home renovation, if you were looking to, perhaps if you were a contractor or something, you'd be able to save on hardware, appliances, things you would fit a home with. Actually, and I'll get to that. But I remember the sales tactic was basically extortion. you'd sit through the presentation, you, your wife, you by yourself, and by the end of the presentation, they drop the ball, or the bomb, which is, if you don't become a member today, you won't be able to become a member for another, I think it was 7 years. So the pressure was on. If you wanted to become a member and you wanted to start saving, you had to become a member right then and there. The membership was $5,000, if I recall. This was back in 2009, 2010. And a lot of people, in fear that they were going to miss out on some huge savings, be it they were a contractor, be it they were a young couple with a lot of money between the two incomes, maybe they were renovating their house, they were going to miss out on an opportunity to save thousands of dollars where they were going to spend the money anyway. So they took the bait, they become a member, signed their life away right then and there. I think they put an amount down towards the membership, and they had 3 days to renege if they wanted to. But after that, the deal was done, and I'm sure they could finance. I think that was probably one of their options. Obviously, not everybody has $5,000 to drop like that, but you were locked in after that 3-day period. And my job was basically taking care of those folks after they had signed their life away, and now we're direct buy members. I think the membership for that first initial year or two was covered in your membership cost, and then to renew it, it was, I don't know, $250 or something a year. I can't remember. This is 16 years ago, 17 years ago. So my job, I was member services, and after the people had bit the bait, I basically looked after them. I worked in a few different departments within the franchise there. I believe my role was flooring, so carpeting, hardwood floors, tile flooring. And I also did plumbing, faucets, toilets, sinks, things of that nature. I shifted between a few other departments, but basically, a member would come in now, and the whole warehouse that we worked in, it was shelves with catalogs, okay, and maybe a few little displays showing what the flooring looked like, what the furniture looked like, or what a prospect bedroom could look like if you were to order all of these products. And that's what you did. You'd come in, you'd look through the catalogs. These members, once the sales team were done with them, they never talked to them again. The owner would come by when the members would come into the warehouse and, make sure they were satisfied. This guy was a greaseball, by the way. Dean, you fuck. Anyway, the bulk of the membership was handled by me and the other service members. So like I said, my major area was flooring. So I would help people plan out if they wanted so many square feet in their home, redone with a new floor. I'd go through the catalogs with them, and based on what they were looking for, find them flooring that they were looking for, the best for whatever setting they had. And we had it all. We had hardwood, we had the synthetic stuff, with like the wood veneer on top. You name it. Almost hit a pheasant there. So what I come to learn over time was that these people really weren't saving all that much. Yes, they would get a wholesale cost on the square footage, you know, but after shipping, after whatever other hidden charges were, they weren't saving all that much. And, you know, if there was any ever screw ups in the ordering, I had to handle that. If there was any disgruntled members not feeling that they got the most out of their membership, remember, they put the $5,000 down before they even started saving. So the idea was you invest, and then you're going to start saving through your purchase power, you know. You save so much on so much square footage. What you save goes back into what you put into the membership in the first place. That's the idea. And just what I learned over time was people really didn't have the capital to back all these things up. Not like you'd think. And the only people who really benefited from the membership, like I mentioned, were contractors. These were people who had bigger budgets. They could really utilize the membership to furnish a house with everything it needs before it goes on the market, and actually save a buck. So, as I mentioned, the young couples who bit the bait, they weren't really saving all that much. And time again, before I knew it, I would see them starting to become frustrated and disappointed in what they had embarked upon. And as a member service agent, I had to keep them happy. Anyhow, so back to the point. Grass is greener on the other side. Comparing yourself to others. Just because somebody looks like they have everything doesn't mean they manage it well. Just because some people have money doesn't mean they manage it well. Another job I had was working in debt collection. And that strengthened my understanding of this even further. And in debt collection, I think I worked for a bank, or that was at least one of the profiles or portfolios I was on. I also worked for credit card debts and things of that nature. So I was in a call center, spent all day harassing people, trying to get them to pay their debts. And I learned that debt is a funny thing. The thing that takes the most hit isn't your bank account, it's your credit score. So you default on a payment long enough, it goes to collections. What really happens is your credit gets hit. That's the thing. And the debting company, the collection agency, we buy those debts for pennies on the dollar. And then we try to get the people to pay off their debt, usually at what they come in at. But we end up settling far, far lower than whatever the debt is. And that's the whole tactic. And I would call, 500 fucking numbers a day. And then I made a commission off of whatever I was able to close and all that. But we had access to look at people's credit scores and to see all of their outstanding debts. And very quickly you could learn that somebody who made over $100,000 a year, again, was not very wise with their finances. I was about, I don't know, mid-20s at that point when I worked that job, late 20s. So that was a real eye-opener too. And ever since then, I just knew that money wasn't the answer. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm no bum. And money is pretty goddamn important. Now that I make more money than I've ever made in my life, and leading up to that point, I was frugal. I was never really materialistic, and I always was able to stretch a buck. But now that I've got it coming in faster than I can spend it, it's stacking up. And after all these years of living a certain way with limited funds, obviously these experiences I've had with these jobs, seeing how people are irresponsible with their finances, it's taught me a lot about how to manage my own. And it falls right into this whole comparison thing that we all seem to do. Nowadays, it's all too easy to compare yourself. Not that it was never an issue decades ago and decades before that. You look at the guy with the nicer house, the nicer car, the 2-car garage, the sprawling property, whatever. Any time in history, it was always easier to be like, well, if I just had what he had, or if I just had what she had. You could send yourself on a downward spiral into the dumps, wishing for things that are out of your reach. But it don't guarantee happiness. It never has. A lot of these people, yeah, they got money. They got things. But is their marriage good? Are they happy with themselves? How easily do they fall into boredom? How easily do they need to spend more money in order to feel something? We all know now, spending money is like hitting a crack pipe. It gives you a dopamine rush. Guys, girls, we're both guilty of it. Shopping for useless shit. They show you that show Hoarders, like it's supposed to teach you something about unkept and unregulated spending, and obviously the worst outcome is you become some fucking hoarder. And then you come to find that hoarders, they have some kind of mental illness. And I don't know, people these days, it is kind of like a mental illness when they are constantly comparing themselves to others and what they think they need. Again, it's all too easy to fall into the trap nowadays. Be it you got social media, people younger than you showing off their nicer cars, guys younger than me showing off their good-looking girlfriends. I don't know. For me, I'm truly unfazed by a lot of it. Once in a blue moon, it hits me that I would like some nicer things in my life. And by all means, there's never a time in my life, especially now at 40, that I don't think that more money would be for the better. It definitely would. I make a decent amount of money from my job a year, or my salary's good. I make a lot of overtime money, which is even better. I've got the whole benefits package and healthcare and all that good stuff. But I still want more money. I want to build a house here in a few years, and I want to do it with ease. So more money is definitely necessary. And I'm not married. I don't have a woman in my life or a partner who can help to take on the financial burden of all these things. But other than just wanting to make more money, I mean, I have a plan for that. As I've mentioned in other videos I've made, I got my art, which I've always been able to make extra income from. Now, mind you, since I've started my small business, which is related to my art, it has been net zero for the year. Haven't earned a cent yet. I'm currently in the phase where I'm trying to accumulate followers and develop an audience that's going to, prospectively, potentially support me in the future as I make more books. So I'm putting the work into that right now. But it's all going to work out. Having a small business, there's some perks for bringing down your taxes. I obviously am pretty on top of keeping all my receipts that pertain to potential business expense, and I will in the end of the year write off a bunch of shit and bring my income for my W-2, my income tax for my W-2 way down. So it's not in vain. My efforts are not in vain. But wanting for things I don't have, something's changed in me after COVID, I suppose. I uprooted my life from Canada, moved to the States, gave up almost all my possessions, sold everything I had, sold everything I could sell. And when I got down to owning only enough that would fit into my Impala at the time, after purging all the things I had accumulated over a decade or so, it was pretty freeing. You don't really need all that much to live a happy, fulfilled life. And for me, my saving grace has been, will be, until the day I die, my art, which I can always fall back on. I can always make money from. I can always use as a catalyst to free me from boredom. And if you're watching this video, I'm sure you've been down philosophical rabbit holes here on YouTube and anywhere else on the internet. And you know that there's something to rooting your life with meaning that you create. That part of the human experience is that you create something. I'm sure you've heard it before, and I've preached it a million times, that a hobby or a craft of some sort is something you absolutely should have in your repertoire. Gives you peace of mind. It gives you something to focus on. It puts you in the zone. In my opinion, it's a form of meditation. Something that takes you out of the rat race, puts you in a Zen mode, if you will. And for me, it's always been, people have always told me I've got a gift when it comes to my art. And I've never thought much of it as a gift or some heavenly imbued thing. No, it's something I worked hard for. And I believe that anybody can find that thing for themselves if they're willing to put the work in. But you got to do that. You got to do that to get to that point. And after years, it'll start. After years of you investing your focus and interest and time, it will start to pay back dividends. It will start to reward you in ways you never could imagine. It will free you from comparing yourselves to others. And now at 40, I can see it clearer and clearer as every day goes by. That a lot of people around me, not so much anymore, but there still are. There are a lot of people around me that sure, they have a lot of money, but they haven't figured themselves out yet. They're not happy with themselves. They don't have a hobby. They don't have something that brings them peace, that brings them motivation, that separates them from all the bullshit that we see in this world. And I don't know how you get there. For me, it just took time. It took time. It took some sacrifice. It took opening my eyes and looking around me at people and as I've said before, and as you've heard many times before from much wiser people than me, you make your own meaning in life. Stripping yourself from all of the bullshit, not comparing yourself to the next guy, the next girl, is step number one. You got to mentally conquer that. You can't get lost in your mind, get stuck wishing for things you don't have. It's a bad loop to find yourself in. And you just end up right back where you started, wanting for what you don't have. You don't need much in this world to be happy. Sit in silence sometimes with your thoughts. I know that I need to do that more often, but I do it often enough. And it's not painful, it's not uncomfortable. Really get to know yourself. Be honest with yourself. I don't know if finding Jesus and God and all that is the answer. I think that's just another patch. It's like a drug. Puts you into a backspin and you delude yourself into thinking that there's some higher power guiding your life when really it's you. You're in control. Quit drugs if you're on them. Pharmaceuticals, stimulants. Get sober, get your mind right, get your health right. The better you feel, the more you strip yourself from this whole social media bullshit, people telling you how to think, people telling you how to be happy. That's why I gave up trying to help people. It's because you can't. They got to help themselves. I got to this place in life where I've discovered tranquility, peace, quiet, what I would equate to happiness, all on my own. And it's a lot more simple than people make it out to be. People complicate things so much in their lives. And don't forget the little sayings. They ring louder and truer the older you get. The grass is always greener on the other side. You don't know what that person's up to. You don't know how bad they are with their money. You don't know how unhappy they are. You don't know how bored they are when they're by themselves. You don't know what makes them tick. You don't know how mentally unstable they are. People are good at putting on a facade. From what I've found, the people who are the happiest are the least noisiest online. They're private. They've discovered what I'm going on about here in their own capacity. They'll have a different way to describe it to you if you're so lucky to get them to share it. But they know what I'm talking about. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. But that's the key. That's the key. Well, it's a half-hour rant. Guess I'll cut this short here. If you're new to the channel, I'm here to promote my book, plain and simple. And I want you to follow me if you're interested in supporting books that I'm going to put out in the future. And to keep you interested, right now you can read my very first authored, illustrated comic book, SIMPY the Cotton Wiener, issue 1, The Pink Nightmare, absolutely free. In the description below, I've linked the Google Drive to the PDF where you can view it in your browser, read it on your device, or download it to your device, whatever you have. It's a PDF. And all I ask is, if you're interested in seeing what I come up with in the future, and you want to follow along to see progress of that and be a part of the very first Kickstarter campaign that I have inevitably will launch, then follow me. And if you do follow me, check out the link. Give my book a read. Get back to me with some feedback. At this juncture in my life, as I mentioned, I'm seeking an audience. Because as an independent comic creator, there's really no success unless you have people to buy your book at the end of the day, right? So, if you like, indulge me that way. If you want to engage with this video by way of likes and comments, feel free, but I really don't give a shit. I want your long-term attention. And I'm going to work hard for that. Anyway, I'm Lupo. Thanks for watching. Bye.